I want to welcome everyone to this celebration with Lindsay on the 7 Mighty Moves. We're so excited about this book. Please don't worry if you don't have the book yet. We're going to, everything will be fine. We're just going to put our toe in the water regarding the book and get more into it later in August. So we're going to get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Lindsay Kemeny. Your co-hosts are me, Cheryl Ferlito, and Nancy Eberhardt. And we will go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much to Nancy and Cheryl for putting this together and for all of you for joining. And we have some special guests here too that came as a surprise for me, and I'm just so excited. So thank you, everyone. I always love to start with my son because he is the whole reason that I'm here. And you know, I knew from the time he was pretty young that he was struggling to learn. He struggled to learn his letters and sounds. He struggled in kindergarten, and I didn't know what to do. And it's really kind of, I felt embarrassed because I'm a teacher and I couldn't help my own son. And all the things I had been taught in college and my early years of teaching were not working. So and just probably make sure everyone's on mute because we're getting a little bit of background noise. So it was in the end of 2nd grade when he was diagnosed with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. And his dyslexia is a spectrum, and he's really severe. And I remember the doctor said, he's in the 1%. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, only 1% of the students I test every year are this severe. And so that just started me on this journey because I wanted to know, well, what do students with dyslexia need to learn to read? Which brought me to, what does everyone need to learn to read? What happens in the brain when we learn to read? And it was just like this snowball effect. And I often describe myself as like a starved animal because I just couldn't get enough. And all my gym sessions were like little mini PD sessions. And I was listening to podcasts and watching webinars, and I was reading everything I could. And I started working with my son and applying the things that I was learning with my son. And then I started applying them in my classroom. And I just saw such a huge difference, both in my son and with my students. And the other thing is that my son was also diagnosed with depression at this time. And his depression all centered around his struggles learning to read. And that experience just changed me, absolutely changed me. When you hear your 9-year-old son tell you that he wishes he were dead, it changes you as a parent. And it kind of lit this fire under me. And I found that my son was not alone because the ability to read is so tightly connected with our self-esteem. I've heard a grown man cry as he shared with me his struggles learning to read. And what happened with my son is that as his reading ability improved, his self-esteem improved. And, you know, so we did so many things to help his depression, but what helped him the most was the ability to read. And he just gained so much confidence. And I will always advocate for my son, but I often wonder, what about all the others? Who's going to advocate for them and who's going to help them? And I just think, you know, I say the science of reading is what healed my son's heart. And so I just think like it just means so much to me. And it's just, I think the ability to read is so powerful and just opens up doors for people. Okay, so I was going through this with my son, and I also was really mad because I had been taught things that were not aligned with research, and I was really upset about it. And so I started a blog like several years ago. And I'm not a huge blogger. I don't have a ton of time because I am a teacher, but I started sharing some of the things because I was like, I want everyone to know what I'm learning, because every teacher deserves to know this stuff, and every student deserves a teacher who knows this stuff. And so I started blogging. This on the screen here. Sink or Swim is maybe one of my more popular blog posts. And, Emily Hanford shared this out and others. So it was my blog was getting shared a lot on Twitter. And then fast forward to just last year, May, I got an email from the editorial director at Scholastic. And they were asking me if I was interested in writing a book. And my first thought was, is this a scam? This is a scam. What is this? This isn't real. And and also it was May. And if you're a teacher, you know that the month of May is crazy. It's so busy. And I was like, I can't even think about this right now. And I don't even know if this is real. So it took me a few weeks to respond to that email, but by the time school got out and I was thinking, I reached out, and it wasn't a scam. It was really the people from Scholastic, and they had read my blog. And so I met with them, and they invited me to write a book proposal. And I just remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I would love to write a book. Like, I'm so passionate about sharing this stuff, but can I write a book? And I wrote this book proposal, and it involves, like, you have to do a sample book chapter. And so I got that ready, and I sent it to them in July. And then it had to go through like several layers of the company. So it would have to go to one group. And if it was a yes, then it would go to the next group. And if it was a yes, it would go on. And they told me, if at any time it's a no, then our journey is over. Well, it's summer. And so I'm not teaching right now. And so I just continued to write. And so I was like, I'm going to write this whole first draft this summer. And if Scholastic says no, I'll just see if maybe there's another publisher that will want to publish it. So I did the first draft that summer, went back to school, and by the end of October, I heard back from them. And it was a yes, and we had a contract. And so then, I just think the process is so interesting. And it was so, like, I really grew to appreciate the process, because then I revised each chapter, and I would send my chapter to my editor. I had the best editor, Ray Coutu, and he would give me his feedback and give it back to me, and I would revise, and I really came to appreciate it. Like, I went from being like, what do you mean that's not clear enough? Or, oh, that's redundant, I have to take that out. Or, and to being like, oh, I can see that how much more clear this will make it and how much better it will make my writing. And then the end of December, that process was over. And then I wanted to reach out to amazing experts in the field, because I'm not a researcher, I'm a teacher, and I'm sharing how I interpret the research, and I want to make sure I'm not sharing anything inaccurately. So I had some amazing people. Some of them are on our call today, Stephanie Stoller and Pam Kastner, and many others that helped me, Matt Burns, Nancy Hennessy. And I'm just so grateful for their, like, just to have another set of eyes looking at it. So that was amazing. And by the end of January, we were able to send it off to design. So you can go to the next slide, Nancy. And this is really fun. I think about the book, all the pictures are from my classroom. There's no stock images. In fact, this picture right here, my daughter took this picture, who's 10 years old. She goes to the same school. And I was like, oh, can you, hey, can you come in at recess and just take a few quick pictures for me? And she's like, sure. Or I asked the teacher one day, she's just going to be like 5 minutes late. I just need her to take a picture. And I would have my cell phone and just on a tripod, and just, she would take some pictures. And then the anyways, I just love that because I really wanted it to be so authentic. I only wanted to share things that I used and from my classroom. And then in the book are QR codes. So those will go to different videos in my classroom. And I know Nancy and Cheryl were really surprised when I told them that, no, I did all those videos. Like it was literally, I would set my cell phone up, push record, go around to the other side, teach my lesson, go back over, stop the recording, and then email it to Scholastic, who would like trim it and everything. So it was kind of fun. I got really fancy on one of my videos and I borrowed my husband's phone for the day. So on a small group lesson, I had 2 angles. I'm like, this is great. My students were out at recess when I set it up, and I'm like, I'll have one phone here and one phone here. And then when they came back in, I'm like, just walk around the phones. And I mean, be careful. And we did and so anyway, so that was fun. And then I could hand off 2 different views to Scholastic. And I remember reviewing it after they had edited it and put it together. And one of the cuts seemed like really quick from one shot to the other. And I was just saying, could we leave it on this screen a little bit more so everyone can see how we're reading, before we switch to this next activity. And I found out the reason they had done that was because I had a student who kept picking her nose and we were trying to edit around it. So I was thought, okay, this is real life, this is how it goes in the classroom. So it was really kind of fun, but I hope you like that. There's one QR code that is broken. It's in the first chapter, and I put a substitute video on my YouTube channel. And Nancy and Cheryl, I'll send you the link to it before you guys do move 1 for the book club. So they'll be able to fix that on reprints, but they can't yet. So, and then I was so honored that Anita Archer wrote my foreword. Anita is a huge hero of mine. And you can go to the next slide, Nancy. Okay, Anita, I was so nervous. To ask her. I had met her last summer and I got to spend a week long, just learning from her and just gleaning. And I just remember I sat in the front row, just trying to get everything I could, it was amazing. And then when it was time to ask her to write my foreword, I was so nervous. And my son always says, and if you've heard me speak before, I've talked about this brave voice. And my son always says, you're the one with the brave voice, Mom. And so I was just thinking, I need to be brave. And I'm like, wonder if Anita says no, or wonder if she doesn't like the book because we're like sending it to her. That's okay if she says no, right? She might be busy, but like, if it's because she doesn't like the book, it's going to crush me, And so I was so delighted when she said yes. That just made my day. I was so excited. This picture, so that picture on the right is from last summer. And then this one just last week, Emily Hanford and Anita were at the Montana Literacy Institute. And I'm just so honored that Emily recommended my book. I've known Emily for a few years. She actually invited me to speak with her in 2019 at the Research Ed Conference, and she's just amazing. So anyway, I'm just so honored.
So Emily wanted to be here today and couldn't. So I told her I was going to share this tweet and a picture, and she was just thrilled by that and continues to wish you well and is very excited. I would love now to hear from some of our literacy leaders that are here today. That was part of our surprise for Lindsay. So first, back up one more. We have Anita Archer, who wrote the foreword of the book, and I read the foreword and I was like, man, you had me at the walkthrough. I loved your stops on the walkthrough. As an administrator, I could like envision it myself. So thank you, Anita, for such a powerful foreword. And thank you for being here. You're muted.
So I'm delighted to be here. And, as I read the book, I thought about how, Lindsay, you were really a model for all of us on continuing to learn. Because you had challenges in your classroom with their reading and your son. And you said, I've got to learn about this. and you did everything you could. You went to trainings, you read books, you talked to other educators, and from that, you then use those practices. Now, isn't that a wise thing? I'm going to very systematically, with fidelity, use this experience to see if it makes a difference. And when it made a difference, you blogged about it, you podcast about it, and you wrote a book. And you know what I always like about this book was the end of every chapter, where it says, this is something you need to keep. This is something that you need to stop doing, like the 3 queuing system. And this is what you need to start. And I thought that was such an excellent way. So I'm glad it sounds like you're doing a book club on it. And those could be particularly ones you attend to. So congratulations. You know, I asked you once, what did you want to do? And you said, I love teaching. So teach on, woman. It's really wonderful to get to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Anita. Some are asking, how do we sign up for the book club? That'll come at the very end, and there'll also be a way to sign up for that. Anita, you gave me chills. You just gave me chills with your words, and thank you for being here. And Nancy, who do we have up next?
Well, the one and only.
Stephanie Staller, part of the Reading Science Academy. And I know that Lindsay is a member of the Reading Science Academy and has done a lot of her learning there. As Nita said, she continues to learn, and you were definitely an influencer in her learning. So thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Lindsay, you're one of my heroes. I just am so inspired by the work that you do with your students, your commitment to your students. Like so many teachers, you were trained in balanced literacy, and you made that your mission to be the best balanced literacy teacher you could be. But you didn't leave it there because it wasn't working for your students. So I love that you took on a mission to change. And like too many parents, your own child suffered in ways that are just really hard to listen to you talk about. And I'm sure were just devastating to live through. But now through this book, this wonderful book that you've written, you're going to be able to impact so many teachers, and through those teachers, many, many, many students. So your teaching will carry on through all of the teachers who are going to have the opportunity to read this terrific book. So congratulations. Really happy to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And you helped me so much too by going through 2 of my draft chapters. And I so appreciated your time, to do that. So thank you.
Happy to do it.
Thanks. Thanks, Stephanie. And now we have, I learned today in re-listening to the reading road trip that Kate Wynn is her soul sister. So Kate Wynn, let's hear from the soul sister.
Hello. So I am here today, Lindsay, representing all of your neighbors to the north, just to tell everybody that 7 Mighty Moves is absolutely on fire up here in Canada. It was sold out on Amazon before it was even actually released, and other suppliers are just desperately trying to get their hands on it. You see everybody tweeting, where did you get it? I tried this link, and all of that. So everybody's really excited. I'm also representing all of those frontline classroom teachers out there who are loving, or who will, once they get their hands on it, absolutely love this book. And I was not exaggerating in my endorsement when I said that it really should be required reading. So I hope everyone reads it. I am so happy for your success, or as we joke about, as they say on Friends, 98% happy, 2% jealous. But I'm thrilled for you and happy to be here tonight, Lindsay. Congratulations.
Thank you. And when Kate was reading through the book, she was texting me her reactions, and it was so fun until into a few days of it, we realized we were being charged like international fees. We're like, oh, maybe we better email.
Oh, you can't make this stuff up, right? It's so great. And next we have Pam Kastner, who's also been very helpful in getting the word out about this webinar. Let's hear from Pam.
Well, Lindsay knows how I feel about her and how I feel about this book, and even before this book, how important it is to have authentic voices from the classroom who speak teacher to teacher, but speak with such expertise and kindness and generosity. We have all, and I'll speak personally for myself too, we've all been on this journey where there's lots of things we wish we would have known, and we've all gone through those 7 stages of grief. And so to have someone of Lindsay's expertise, caliber, and kindness to kind of guide us through this journey, and so many other teachers, I just think is such a powerful and generous thing for the field. And I said to her, my fervent hope is that she always speaks from the classroom because she's such an expert, but also such a kind leader of this journey for so many. So Lindsay, you know how much I honor your work and our friendship. So thank you so much for letting me be a small part of your book.
Thank you, Pam. And you know how I feel about you. I feel so indebted to you, and you've been so supportive and encouraging. And Pam read all my draft chapters and gave me feedback. And so I'm just so grateful to you, Pam. And you've just helped so much, helping connecting me with people and just really supporting me. So thank you.
The honor's been all mine. Thank you.
And of course, Nancy Everhart.
Wow. Yes. Well, I have to say that Ray, the editor that Lindsay mentioned earlier, was probably one of the most amazing spokespeople, because I came very late to this party. I was invited to do an endorsement and was really just honored to be even asked. And I said, when am I going to have time to read it? And then I started reading it and I couldn't stop. So I think we'll hear more about the content as we move along, but I think what impressed me the most was not just what Lindsay said, but how she said it. And she just came across as this consummate literacy diplomat. You know, we were talking about, you know, not being confrontational. She managed to do that in just such an elegant and impressive way. So it's been a pleasure to be a part of this party. And I really, the reason we're here in part tonight is I kept saying to Cheryl, you got to read this book when we get our hands on it, because it's so much about what we've been trying to work on as well. So we'll talk more about that later. But Lindsay, congratulations and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It was so fun. We met in Stephanie Stoller's Reading Science Academy. And so it's been fun. And then we would see each other in person, I think for the first time, probably at the Reading League conference or Plain Talk. I can't remember.
And then at IDA too.
Yeah. So, and so I'm excited. And I'm excited I get to come to Connecticut to see you. So that
I should have said that. We have invited, because I like the book so much, Lindsay is coming to our first in-person Reading League Connecticut in-person event on September 30th. And so not only does she get to come, but I get to chauffeur her. So I'm like really looking forward to this.
Hey, we get a
I
road
want to
trip
not
together.
come if I'm the chauffeur, but that's another story. Anyways, onward we go.
Margaret Goldberg, I'm going to just check, but she was not sure if she was going to be able to make it.
I don't think I saw
Margaret, if
her
you're in the
name.
house, unmute yourself.
I didn't see her name come in.
Okay, I didn't either. She said it was going to be a really close call. So I did tell her that I would post her review. If you don't have the book, just know that the front and the back cover is loaded. We have Anita Archer for the introduction, the forward, and then we have literally the cover full of accolades, and Margaret's is one of them. So thank you to Margaret Goldberg for that. Another teacher. We have Tracy Whedon in the house. Faith, I don't think was able to make it either, but Tracy Whedon is in the house. Tracy, can you unmute yourself?
Certainly can. Hello, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Lindsay. Yes, I'm honored to be here. Lindsay, what a journey you have been on. And it's so beautiful to see how each puzzle piece fit exactly as it should. And I want to honor you for bringing honor to this profession of teaching. You are a light and a bright light that reminds teachers that they are thinking professionals and that they can translate and take the science and apply it, not only are you grounding teachers in best practices, but you're pointing to the future of next practices and helping us build a body of implementation science. So you meet people and you want to just believe they're like, you're connected immediately. You're one of those people. And I am a believer in Lindsay. So I cannot wait to see your leadership moves. And as I love to say, it's not just about position and title, it's about disposition and purpose. And you are living your purpose fully. And I'm so very proud of you.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Oh, you guys are all going to make me cry. Tracy, it was such an honor. I got to meet you at Plain Talk. It was just, oh, it was such an honor. And I love listening to you. You are so inspiring. And I really appreciate your kind endorsement and your words today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, again, Lindsay, we wanted to surprise you with some special guests, and I'm so happy for the folks that could show up. I'm so happy for the folks that reviewed your book and helped you, and we do look for more to come on this front. So let's continue our journey this evening. We're going to talk for a minute about the moves, the 7 mighty moves themselves. So anything that you would like to share on these moves, Lindsay, is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, okay. So these are kind of the biggest moves I made, the changes I made in my classroom. So the first one is intentional phonemic awareness. And really, it's almost embarrassing, but my first move was just knowing that phonemic awareness was a thing. Like, honestly, I had not been taught anything about it when I taught second grade back when I first started, like 20 years ago. I never considered that some of my students might have a deficit in this area. So my first move was just teaching it. Then I had to make moves within that where I realized, we don't need 20 minutes of oral only phonemic awareness instruction. We can cut that down. We can focus on getting to the phoneme. We can also be intentional about connecting the phoneme with the grapheme, with the spelling. Move 2 was to teach phonics explicitly and systematically. Now, if you had asked me, I would have said, yes, I teach phonics. But the truth is, I didn't really know what good phonics instruction looked like. And it was more reactive. Oh, what did my students miss in this text? Oh, what's a hard word in here? Okay, we'll do something with that. And so that I had to completely change and learn, oh, I need a solid phonics scope and sequence that I need to follow that goes from less complex to more complex, more frequent to less frequent spellings. So I needed to follow a good scope and sequence, and I needed to follow that, as Anita has coined, I do, we do, and you do lesson plan. So that was huge. Move 3 is probably one of the biggest changes I had to make, was to completely abandon the 3 cueing strategies and to teach decoding strategies instead. And I should say that in each chapter, I'm going to talk about, I talk about the research base, implications for the classroom, and then I go to some of my favorite strategies for doing those things. And so when you have students that are using the 3 cueing system, it is so hard. It's a really hard habit to break. And so I give some ideas for how to break those habits. And in fact, a fun story, one of my students, I set up the video and when I was working with her one-on-one, and I'm so excited to catch her guessing on the camera. And so I could show in the QR code in the book, I could show what you can do when you have a student who's guessing at a word. Well, there's like some background noise and maybe it's not the best quality video. So Scholastic had asked me to redo that video. Well, it had been a few months and I'm like, I could redo it, but she's not guessing anymore. So I don't think we're going to get it on camera. And they're like, well, will you please try? And I'm like, yes, I'll try. And so I set up the video and we did it and she didn't guess at all. So I'm like, sorry, the bad news is we'll have to use the original video. Good news, she's not guessing. And that's a hard habit to break. Move 4 is to use decodable text for those beginning readers. So we want them to practice those sound spelling correspondences that we've been teaching in our explicit phonics lessons. So we want to give them plenty of opportunities to practice. And I do go through, don't overcorrect. It doesn't mean that we only use decodables. Then move 5 is kind of rethinking how we think of sight words, and thinking of, I go through the terminology. We can call them high frequency words, and I'm going to share a way that I teach those to combine to bring awareness to the sounds and spellings in the words. Move 6. Oh, and shout out to Nora Chabazi, who's on the call, because I learned that process from her. Move 6 is, we sometimes expect fluency to, develop on its own, but we need to be very intentional and give meaningful practice opportunities with our students, reading aloud with the opportunity for feedback in order for their fluency to improve. Move 7, that's something I did, was I neglected vocabulary and background knowledge. We know some strategy work is helpful too, but we also need to embrace our vocabulary instruction and background knowledge in order to improve that comprehension. So that's a really quick overview of the 7 moves.
Thank you. We will break those down more during the book club. So more to come on those, but we do appreciate the overview. Is there anything that our special guest would like to add before we get into the next section?
Nobody's going to jump in. Well,
That's okay. Just wanted to give an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll use that as my jumping off point. And as I watched so many of you talking about Lindsay's story and her journey, I realized how many of you have also, I just want to say how many of you have been the wind under Cheryl's and my wings as we've tried to launch Sortegories. And it's, quite touching to be here with everybody. I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. But as I said earlier, when I had this opportunity to read Lindsay's book, it made me think so much about the path that Cheryl and I were on at the same time, though I think you had a whole lot nicer journey than we've had in some ways. It was maybe a little easier. We didn't know about app development, but Sortegories, for those of you who may be joining us and don't know or haven't heard, is a web-based app that's targeting emerging readers regardless of age. It is appropriate for the very early grades, but we are also hearing that it's applicable for older students. Our goal was to certainly lay down the initial code-based work that students need to learn to read the words correctly in the first place. But we also, Cheryl and I, our experience had us realize, because we were working with older students, that just because students could read the words, they didn't necessarily know what they meant. So we started layering in vocabulary and then working with words in context. And we'll look at that in a moment. The other thing that we really wanted to do in this app was to provide feedback, immediate feedback, right or wrong. Kids would get feedback on their answers. Our experience is that if you keep practicing in the wrong information in the wrong way, that is not going to improve learning outcomes. So we've built in feedback, and we've also built in a lot of supports, what we call help. And that's designed, initially we were designing that for the children, the students, but we're finding that teachers are learning along with the children some of the things that we're putting in the help. So we're feeling as though it's a multi-purpose function of our little helps. And then last but not least, what really was the original impetus for this, for Sortegories, was to provide purposeful practice. And that has really been our mission, that we want students to have more opportunities to practice the things they're learning to become more proficient. And we know that practice exists how much you need exists on a continuum. And Sortegories makes it possible to keep doing things over and over as much as you need until you get it down pat. So quickly, Sortegories is 9 activities. Row 1 is a row that's dealing with the code. We move from phoneme isolation to segmentation to building with those same sound to spelling correspondences. Then we move those words that kids can read and spell to do vocabulary. Related is antonyms, synonyms. Categorize it is semantic sorting. And then analogy building is word puzzles using these decodable words. Anything that's not decodable is read to the students. And then last but not least, we move into morphology, grammar concepts, and using the words that students can read and spell in phrases and understanding what those phrases mean. And then to just bring home this point about practice, and we thank Jamie Peevler from who jumped in with us and taught us about what we actually were doing in Sortegories by labeling the kinds of practice with block practices where we're really focusing on a particular slice of scope and sequence. Then we start to use those words in activities where they are showing up not in a linear way, but they're getting to practice by cycling those words through over time. And then the last but not least, and why we think it was so important to get to phrase building, is we wanted students to be able to generalize and apply what they were learning about the code to more complex text situation. The underpinning of our program, and we won't go into detail here, is we've called it the Word Knowledge Network. For those of you who perhaps saw the Reading League's journal article, I think May a year ago, on the multi-component model, the one on which Ravo and Language Circle, Project Read materials, or Language Exclamation were built, was that the more you know about a word, the better it is. And this is something we'll go through more detail in the book club, but we talk about what happens as we walk a word around the network. One of the things that I was so excited in Lindsay's book was when she talked about explicit teaching being and systematic teaching being based on a scope and sequence, because we believe the same thing. I guess you love it when someone believes what you believe, but I think it's so true that we have to have something that organizes the rollout of the content. And so we have our scope and sequence, and this little slice is 1 module's worth. And those sounds to spelling is what we use to first learn the sound spelling, then we build words from those, and then we build phrases from those. And you can see that building process taking place. And then it is that scope and sequence that is what we use for each of the activities within the program. And then I think a common bond to what Lindsay was saying earlier is that we really are trying, as Lindsay did. She shows the reading rope, Scarborough's rope, and we've used the simple view of reading to show how what we're doing aligns with what we know to be important in terms of learning the beginning reading process. And with all of this, Sortegories takes us from sound to syntax in every module, and that is our story. So Cheryl, how about picking up from there?
Yes. Oops. Yes, thank you. So our plan for the book club is that we will have the book club starting on August 28th. We will talk about Move 1, phonemic awareness, and then how Sortegories teaches Move or provides practice for Move 1. And even if you are not an owner or user of Sortegories, how could you use what's in your classroom to do more with Move 1? So that's how the book club is going to go. We'll go through the book club and then application using Sortegories, and hopefully you'll be able to make application to whatever you have got going on in your classroom. The link I will put in the chat again. And you can go to the next slide, Nancy.
Okay.
So here, what we have for you, if you're interested in Sortegories, is a QR code for a free trial. What we also have for you is the ordering QR code if you want to order from Amazon. Lindsay might have a little update on how that's going. And also a QR code to register for the book club. Lindsay, are there any, I know you've been giving us updates on.
It is back in stock on Amazon.
Okay.
So I know some people
Awesome.
were waiting and they like kept selling out of their stock, but it is back. The last time I looked, it was giving me next day availability. So it should be, and all my friends in Canada, there was issues there too, which I think have been, I don't know if Amazon Canada has it back in stock, but I know the Scholastic Teacher Store does, and people have been calling and then being able to get it the next day now. So hopefully the issues are over. It's back in stock.
May I ask the author a question?
Of course.
All right. I'm really interested because this comes up pretty frequently, which is with so many things to do. I mean, so many changes you might need, where to begin. Like, is there one of these moves that's most impactful or most logical as a starting point? Is there any advice that you kind of came away from through this process?
It's so hard to just choose one move because I think all of them are so important. And it also kind of depends on your students and their needs. I will say that when I first started doing these moves in kindergarten, probably one of the biggest things I did was stop using the 3 cueing system and change the type of text I was giving these brand new fragile readers. But the other moves go into that too, because in order to help them not fall back to 3 cueing strategies was they needed that explicit phonics instruction and phonemic awareness, and to help them, they need all of it. But I will say baby steps, do baby steps. It can be overwhelming to think you need to overhaul all your instruction at once. So yes, choose one thing, look at that, apply that in your classroom. Okay. Do another thing. Okay. And just like keep building.
That's such good advice, because we can just take on so much change as teachers at a time, right? I think
Yeah.
we might err in trying to do too many things at one time. So pick a move and get good at it. That's really great. Do we have any other comments from our special guests? We'd love to hear from you.
Well, one thing that pleased me, Lindsay, is that it is not a book that just tells what to teach, but also emphasizes how to teach, because we're certainly finding that we could have a good sequence, but not teach it explicitly, not actively involve the students, not structure the learning, and then the outcomes would still be low. So it's really this marriage between good content, which are your 7 moves, and consistently with the very best instruction that we could provide. So congratulations on infusing instruction in the chapters.
Well, thank you. And really, you can see a lot of Anita's influence on my teaching, I think, throughout the book. So I'm grateful for you, Anita, for everything you've shared with all of us. So
that's so great. There's definitely Anita's influence in Sortegories as well. And I thank you, Anita, for your contribution. Anyone else from our special guests that would like to add anything at all?
Anyone?
Yep. And does anyone else want to unmic or put a question in the chat? I can offer that up as well.
And someone had mentioned in the chat, it is back in stock on Amazon Canada. So that's great.
Oh, good. Because you have quite a fan base in Canada. So that's awesome.
Hi, I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So my name is Kathleen. I'm looking because I just registered for the book club and I have different dates. So when I registered, it says August 28th, September 4th, September 11th, and September 18th. but on your screen, I don't have, it doesn't say September 4th.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so September 4th is Labor Day.
Right, so
Okay.
there's, I wasn't assuming, so there's no.
There's no book
that
club. So,
night?
Here are the dates. I went
I'm
back.
so we tried on Zoom, we tried to, maybe it didn't work. We tried to say no, like make a series and then cancel a date, and maybe Zoom didn't agree with that. There's no book club on the holiday.
Okay, thank you. I just
Thank you
wanted
for
to-
letting us know. We'll look into that. Any other questions? We'll watch the chat to see. Oh, do you include information on sound walls in the book? Actually, she does. Lindsay, you have a great quote on there. Let me just remember it. You said the magic is not in the sound wall. How close was I?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Something similar?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, yes, and I'm clear in there that like, I'll tell you how I use my sound spelling wall. I like to call it a sound spelling wall because it connects the sound with the spelling, right? Which is the whole goal. And I'm clear in there that we don't have research right now that says, oh, here, there's not research on sound spelling walls, but we do have research that talks about, the benefits of drawing students' awareness to the phonemes and the articulation of the phonemes. And so that's really what I lean into when I think about my instruction. Anyone can throw a poster up on the wall. So it's what you're doing in the instruction. And my sound spelling wall kind of helps, what helped me, like gave me clarity of kind of like, okay, what am I doing? What am I teaching? I'm teaching, these spellings for these phonemes. So.
Right. And your other comment was at first, maybe the first year, I think you said it was like for you, right? You used it as your reference point, which is an okay thing, right? I mean, we need that as teachers too, and then moved on to use it instructionally. We need to get away from using sound, having a sound wall kind of as wallpaper, right? We see sound walls in some classrooms and they're not the children or the teacher, neither children or teachers are interacting. Tracy is shaking her head, yes, right? And in some classrooms, we see sound walls and word walls, like on opposite walls. And I just don't even understand that. So that shows some confusion. So thank you for your information on the sound walls in your book, because I think it's helpful. And it shows how you can progress from using it as a resource for teachers, for yourself, to using it as an instructional tool for students. And I think you did a really nice job with that. We don't have to know everything right away as teachers, even though we feel like we should. It's probably not realistic. So thank you for that. That's really helpful. Anyone else that would like to unmute and ask a question?
This is Tracy Ferris from Texas Reads, and I don't have a question. I just have a thank you, because I was on a similar journey as you, only as a dyslexia specialist, and running into that confusion of, wait a minute, I don't know what I'm doing. And when I finally got all the information, or as much information as I could when I was still in the classroom, I would have loved to have this book. I needed to see, like, what does this look like? Like, I'm all in, I want to do it, but how? And what does it look like? And you have all of that in this book. I mean, this is amazing. So the teachers are going to eat this up. And thank you for putting the work in for all the teachers out there that are ready to do this.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope so. And after you guys read it and you love it, you leave me an Amazon review, because that will help other people make the decision. And if you hate it, just email me privately.
Yes, Amazon reviews are really helpful because it helps the algorithm, right? The Amazon algorithms. So if you haven't noticed, the book is #1 in its category under new releases. So we want to keep Lindsay in that #1 slot. And we're going to do that by purchasing and making reviews on Amazon. So yes, I did post a review and it's pending. So we'll see if it makes it out there. But
thank you, Tracy. Like that, your words mean so much to me. And I just, like, because that's what I've really hoped, and I'm just like, I hope the teachers find it helpful and I hope they like it. And, you know, I was talking to Nancy, Cheryl, because I'm like, I'm scared about a bad review. And I just have to be like, it's fine, you know, like, let it go. And I just appreciate so many people reaching out to me. So Tracy, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Tracy. And thank you, Tracy, for helping us promote this session tonight as well. I really appreciate that. Okay, I missed something in the chat. Let me just see what I missed.
Can I jump in and ask, what do your kids think about you writing a book, especially your son?
Oh
What's his
my
reaction
gosh.
been?
He is on cloud 9. He also tells me, I'll help you sell my book, Mom. I'm like, oh, really? Awesome. And he said, yeah, can I have 20%?
He wants a commission.
But he is so excited. He wants to give it to all his teachers. So he's like, I want to give it to my teachers. And you know, all my kids I have 4 children, so they're all excited. Even my teenage boys, you know, I had my 15-year-old was like, yeah, I want a copy of your book. Mom, I'm going to learn about the science of reading, you know? And my daughter is my youngest. She's 10, and now she's just writing book after book. And every little book she makes, she puts the little scholastic thing on the front cover. It's cute. So it's inspired her to write, which is fun. So yeah, it's really fun that they're like all involved, and it's great.
That really is wonderful.
And
Lindsay,
I should add, my one with dyslexia has started reading it, and he has his own copy and he has it in his bed and he is reading it. So
he's reading it. Oh my gosh. That is so great.
That is amazing.
That is amazing. That is amazing. If we missed anyone in the chat, will you unmute yourself and just talk with us? Lots of accolades in the chat, Lindsay. I'll tell you that.
Reading now. Thank you, everyone.
Really nice.
And we still have people arriving.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for their time. I especially want to thank our special guests for jumping on after reviewing Lindsay's book and helping us surprise her. Lindsay, I hope you were a little bit surprised.
I was totally surprised. I still can't believe it. And I think tonight it's going to like be hitting me even more. And so thank you so much, you guys, for coming. Wow, that was an amazing surprise.
It's been fun to plan. It's even more fun to celebrate with you. I look forward to future book clubs. If you can make it, great. If you can't, we understand your teaching. We will do you proud as the best we can. And we just look forward to hearing more from you. I know you've got a lot of engagements that you're signed up for, and we just wish you the best. Or just Nancy and I were your biggest cheerleaders. Well, maybe not your biggest, because you got a lot of cheerleaders out there, but we are big cheerleaders of you, definitely part of your fan club, and we couldn't be more proud.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Anita's clapping. Everybody, a round of applause.
So honored, truly. Thank you so much.
Yes, everybody's joining us and turning cameras on with their round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone. Make it a great night, everyone. Hopefully we've made Lindsay's night. You surely have made mine for being here. And we look forward to seeing you in August. No book club on Labor Day, right? But we'll have Mighty Move Mondays, except for Labor Day. Okay.
Yeah, that's so cute. And happy back to school, everyone. I don't know when you go back. I go back next week. I'm excited.
All right. All right.
Lucky
Thank
kids, lucky students.
Thank you so much, everyone. You can stop the recording.
I'm just